AI, folks, it is the buzzword that we were talking about. And I had a great example during the week. So last weekend, I went and shot the WNBL.
Yep.
Got a local stadium near us. So when I can, I love to just go down and shoot for myself because it's good for the brain and for the mindset. To remind yourself why we do this.
Yeah, Michael, I'm going to jump in.
Photography.
I'm going to jump in really quick. You straight away texted me like, I don't know, maybe it was like halftime. I don't know what time frame it was. Not relevant. But you straight away texted me. It was just like, you know what? I miss shooting this. I miss doing photography for myself.
Yeah.
So
I haven't done it. I haven't shot a game of like photography, paid and unpaid, for a while. And I think that's sort of been the shift in 2 Times Creative where it's video first, but I definitely don't want to lose photography.
And people talk about the whole doing stuff for clients, for like money, for retainers, for whatever. Yeah. But you still have a basket over here that you should grab in from, reach in to occasionally for yourself.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Anyway, so during this basketball game, I got this great shot, and we'll put it up on screen, but I'll show you here, Darren.
Arrogant.
Got this great shot. Well, in the moment, I'm like, yeah, this is one of my faves. So here it is.
You think that's the great shot? Just kidding, it's not a shot.
I was fond of it, but you may notice
this can't be it.
You may notice there's one factor that I wasn't too fond of it. And it's the other photographer running in my shot. And credit to him, I don't know him, but he's been doing a great job with the Southside Flyers. But he's in my shot.
He needs to go. He needs to go.
I put up on my Instagram story, I put up on Threads, which you'll see was the biggest engagement and sort of people being passionate one way or the other. But I used Photoshop Generative Fill to remove the photographer. This is what it looks like from straight out of AI.
It's yeah. I mean, I can see exactly why you do it. Obviously.
Exactly. So, and this is why I wanted to show it. Like, I simply asked, what do people think of using AI in this way? And from the responses, no middle ground, Darren. There's no such thing as a middle ground. There's either people saying, yes, nothing wrong with this, I love it, the shot is so much cleaner, the subject is your main thing, you're not distracted. Or the other people would just be like, this is shocking, it's not real photography, wouldn't do this for an editorial. And I want to say that both those points are very valid. So I needed to clarify with these people that this was shot for me. If this was shot for a client, if it was something like an editorial for like Getty Images, you wouldn't do that, right?
Why and why not?
Because it's not a real photograph. And the main point of this photo, we can zoom in and show on the screen, is it's actually messing with a brand's logo.
But I would argue slightly, but I would still argue that even if it's for editorial or for Getty or whatever, that's a much better image. Like, you can crop it a bit to reduce some of the warped nature of it.
And this is the final edit, so I actually did crop in.
Oh, well, there you go. But that's much better than with like, if you're providing this to a client, that's much better than a dude standing halfway through your frame.
Well, that's why I wanted to get your opinion, because you straight away look at it and be like, of course, that's a big shot.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, I was going to ask on the Threads, because it did blow up a bit, but what was the percentage of, like, yes, no, basically, from your memory?
Yeah, so there was 219 comments on Threads, which was great just to have the conversation. And I said to a lot of these people, like, I haven't posted here, I'm not going to get to everyone, but I posted this to create the conversation, because that's, at the end of the day, I wanted to have the conversation to see what people thought. On Threads, I would say majority didn't like it. So I don't know whether that goes to show that people maybe a bit more of an older generation
Old school,
that not struggling to adapt with the times, but that's definitely not. They felt that was like an insult to photography, and my response to that was, I can appreciate that, because at the heart of it, it's not a photograph anymore. It's actually turning into a bit of a digital.
I don't really agree.
It's actually turning into a bit of a digital artwork, because you're doctoring the photo.
But it's very slight. So
it depends what the definition of a photograph is, actually.
Well, I think it's still 100% an original. Like, to me, it's still an original photo. You just edit, like, you just.
But it's not, because you're not documenting exactly you're not capturing exactly what's in front of you, because you're changing that through AI. You're actually removing.
I guess so. I think it's a case by case basis in terms of, because I was reading some of those comments and they're just like, well, this changes everything. Like, any photo, or maybe you just said it to me, like, any photo you look at, you're going to be like, if this becomes the norm, you're going to be like, is that real?
Yeah. And
but it's not like her face is green or something, or she has like.
Well, that's what.
It's a very slight thing that doesn't. To me, maybe as long as you're not editing the main focal point, like the main person in shot for this, maybe it's accepted.
Great point there, because a lot of people had the same. No, a lot of people said this is absolutely fine to me, because as long as you're not changing the subject, for this case the athlete, and as long as the photo is about the athlete, they've got no issues with it. So
Yeah.
they share that opinion.
It's the background. It's like if the background had a rude sign.
Yeah.
rid of
So
it.
another good point, the thread. Sorry, I'm just remembering this as we go. Someone on the Threads thread. That's where the terminology doesn't work for that platform. They said
Okay.
they said one way to define what they think is appropriate and what's not appropriate is this is fine because the subject, you're actually making the shot better. Like you're moving
Yeah.
things around it, so you're making the shot better. But where they'd find there'd be a problem, where they'd find there'd be the problem is if you used AI to make the crowd look packed to the rafters.
Yeah, but that's just stupid. Yeah.
No, but isn't that a good example? So if you're using AI in a basketball stadium and it's quite a low numbered crowd and you're using AI to fill the seats, that's a really good example. Rather than just moving someone out of frame, like I have here, two very different things.
Very much. That's probably a good example of the yes and no's of when to use AI for photography or editing, because that is manipulating the actual scene. Because the other one, if you're just removing the cameraman away from it, that's a real photo if you just adjusted your frame or you timed it differently.
Yeah.
But the crowd filling up is not a real time. Okay, it's not a real photo.
And a lot of people actually said on the thread, just take a better shot. I'm like, well, there's someone running in front of me, so sure, that could have been a factor. But a couple of things I wanted to sort of talk about off the back of this. So to wrap up, I guess the pros of this, let's use this example. Better overall image, we both agree with that.
Yep.
Much cleaner, slick imagery. No one can really argue that. The cons of that is you're losing a bit of authenticity for those people that are thinking about type of thing, which I think, again, is totally valid. And it's not proper photography, because I would happily describe that as digital artwork. I know you didn't quite agree, which is a good discussion. But if people want to make that argument, I'd happily say, okay, that's a digital artwork.
Okay.
So,
interesting.
Let me give you an example of another industry that I don't think many people think about.
Okay.
Car photographers, and might lean into lifestyle photographers, but car photographers, I want people to know, you've seen, watch people like North Borders, really good car photographer in Melbourne, but all over the world, the amount of stuff they clean up in their image, removing pieces of rubbish from the asphalt, removing lines from, might be really small, paint on the asphalt that they clean up in Photoshop. That happens all the time. The biggest, say, car spec ads where it's this beautiful new Hyundai, I guarantee you there would be Photoshopping there. So what's the difference?
Yes. No, that's a good point. I think my mind automatically goes to it's a case-by-case thing. Because once again, the car and rubbish example is, to me, if everyone would use the final shot with those slight things AI edited, it's worth it and you can do it. But yeah, I mean, it's a tricky question.
Yeah,
because
I agree case by case.
It's a case by case, but yeah, I do see what the other people are saying in terms of that's not the real shot. Maybe just move the rubbish yourself and take the better shot. I don't know. It's a funny one, but it's at the end of the day, if you're using it for a magazine, you want it to look all spick and whatever, and the client is going to be happy with that result. I reckon just do it.
Yeah, I agree. And also just be transparent. Don't try to use it and not acknowledge that you're using it.
Yeah.
Sounds
simple. By the way, cleaned up this.
Before or after? Yeah. Which one do you prefer? Your choice. Do your policies allow for this sort of thing?
True. Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting discussion. I reckon I would say, my rule with this that I think about is if it messes with the focal point, don't do it. But if it messes with the background and the exterior, permission granted.
Except for filling seats. You just mean the
Yeah, true. If it messes with the overall realistic atmosphere, permission not granted.
It's a hard one. I want to. If you're a photographer and you are watching this and you saw that example, let me know your thoughts, because I had a great discussion on Threads and LinkedIn. Funnily enough, LinkedIn a lot more for it. Threads positive. A lot more against it.
Yeah, maybe leaning towards Threads is more of a social media as opposed to LinkedIn. I'd call it more of a positive networking experience.
Yeah. Yep. Goes to show the platforms. Two quick other points. One thing I found that would be a very big negative as a photographer using AI, the minute you publicly use AI for one of your photos, there will be an impact that people will start to second guess every single photo you take.
Probably. You're probably right.
I got that on one of so I posted 10 photos from the WNBL game, was talking to another photographer, lovely photographer, and she didn't mean it this way at all, but she said, is this photo of in the carousel, is this also AI or is that just purely your shot? And I'm like,
Yeah,
you know what? That's fair enough because I've shown that I'm using it on one. Why are any of my photos real?
Yeah. I mean,
Because you sort of
true,
put this
yeah.
cloud over you that it's just like I could be putting fake stuff or removing stuff out of every single image that I show you because now that is my brand.
It's a great point. It's a great point, and then that takes away your craft, and
Yeah.
you probably feel worse about it because you're like, no, this is my skill. Like
Yeah.
I did this kind of thing.
So that's a big negative. I wanted to quickly ask you to wrap up this chat, Darren. Ways you use AI in a week-to-week basis, or ways that you think you'd recommend to the audience that would be beneficial to them to use it. That's not going to hinder maybe something like this.
You know what?
You don't use it?
Oh, you want to say what? I don't think I use it at all. Like I think I've experimented like with Photoshop and the Photoshop like beta, beta.
Yeah.
Is that what you call it?
Beta version?
Better?
Yeah, I think so.
Beta version. The whole generative fill. I've used it in terms of more to experiment with what it's capable of, but I don't think I actually use it.
Yeah.
There's like making a magic wand around someone when you cut out a design. Is that AI?
I don't. Well,
Probably not. That's because that's been around forever.
What about-
We're not going to count that.
what about artless voiceover? Have you used
You
that
know
for
what?
MBL?
Is it Artlist or Epidemic Sound?
Oh,
It's probably-
I mean both. It's
I think Artlist has so they've recently, from my knowledge, upgraded their whole like voiceover type thing. I don't know whether it's been around for a while, but I've gone in there and you like literally you choose the tone, you choose the accent, you choose the type, as in like are they hyping up someone? Are they
Yeah.
doing like a deep dive documentary about animals? And they're really quite impressive. I don't
Yeah.
know if I can use them for MBL stuff, but you literally could because there are some very like sport orientated ones on that where they can do a perfect voiceover for any edit you
Yeah.
want, which is quite amusing. So I reckon I would trial that, and
Yeah.
I reckon for like even like podcast intros, you could trial that.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a very one good example that people could and should look into AI because, as you said, you could very well use it for an ad that you might be paying some John down the street a couple of grand to
Who'll
do
do
it
the same thing.
professionally. Like, well, you test it out, see if it saves yourself a few bucks and some stress.
Do you use it, AI, at all?
The only consistent thing I do, well, consistent might be like once a month, but is ChatGPT, but not for like one consistent thing. Like, for example, if I've got a rough content idea, but I want to sort of target more towards like helping a particular audience, I'll literally type in something into ChatGPT and just be like, can you... I don't know. I find myself asking questions like, can you identify who this would be good for? Or even if it's a piece of content that I'd like to make, they can help with like scripts. This is an example that I haven't used, but they can help with like scripts or they can help with like ideation of concepts.
So it might be more to get motivational education on a topic. Like
Yeah.
or to like spark a thought in you rather than using that final product.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. No, that's good.
In our business coaching, our coaching that we do, they also recommend it to help with like hooks. So
Oh, yeah,
like,
yeah,
what's an
yeah, true.
attention grabbing sentence? This is
Out of-
my video. What would be a way I could frame this? Or
Or you actually can put just a flat out full video or like a social clip or something and be like, what's the most attention grabbing?
I think
Or
you
can't.
can. I think you can actually do
can't.
that, but just describe what the video is, and they'll help you with a hook.
Because you use ChatGPT to write to our family messages, don't you?
Yeah, yeah.
Not as bloody, it's very well worded.
I want to say with ChatGPT, I hate it when people don't reword things to make it sound like themselves. So if you are using ChatGPT, just be very cautious of it not sounding like yourself, because I think that's very
Well, I think that's the biggest.
detrimental,
yeah, detrimental
to your brand or personal brand or business.
I think that's why I'd shy away from it because if, like I've said, like we've talked about I reckon the most important part of a brand is being authentic and being you, because you can't replicate you. We can, but no one else can.
Good
So
point.
it's kind of like that's the biggest part of your brand. So that's why I'd be almost like scared to use it unless it's like a generic email going out and people know it's a generic one. Maybe it's fine,
Yeah.
but it's an interesting one. But I think the whole term of adapt or die might come into it. Like
Don't-
people just use it and you spend a lot more time and energy and get burnt out if you don't use it. And then
Yeah.
your competitors using it and they're just like, yeah, I'm doing well.
Yeah, like don't fight it because you're so stubborn. Like,
Yeah.
find ways if it can help you. And I'd love to hear from anybody out there if you use it on a week-to-week basis, any sort of AI. Let us know what it is, because maybe we'll find something that will get thrown our way that could change our lives.
I was going to say the modern technology these days, when that buzz you get when you kind of come across a new piece of technology that makes your workflow, like whether it's editing or whatever, so much easier. That stuff's actually exciting. So if you use something on a daily basis, whether it's editing, design, whatever, podcast uploading, any
Yeah.
sort of server or app or anything. It'd be really cool to hear about because you might think it's obvious and
Yeah.
people out there might not, and you might be getting a lot of love your way if you come out with something handy.
Yeah, for sure.
Great discussion, though.
Hidden secrets all over there. Thank you. Did you know that?
Good.
Did you know Adobe Premiere are coming out, or they've come out with their beta version of generative fill, but for video?
I have often thought about that has to be the next thing, and I know
Yeah.
it kind of exists, but have you seen it?
I haven't used it, but an example would be if you've got a clip, you recorded a clip of someone walking, say, and you just recorded to a certain point, but you need an extra 3 seconds, you can actually extend it, and now AI will try to keep that person walking.
So I think I've seen someone do that. Yeah. It's very
It'd be
interesting.
very, very interesting. But again, does that mean you're going to classify that videographer as a fraud?
that was so smart how you kept the camera rolling for extra 10 seconds. Like, I did not.
Yeah.
But in saying that, does it really impact anything? It's just using what tools you have available to you.
Yeah, it's smart.
It's
Anyway, let
just
us know
like
your thought. It's a good discussion point.
It's just like a gardener using tools in front of him instead of their hands to cut grass. Are they cheating or are they just using the tools in front of them? I think that's a great little comparison.
I don't mind that analogy. Darren, hit us with your discussion point of the week. We talked about it off the top a bit, but content, quality, or quantity.